Your right to carry a concealed weapon in the state of California is under attack. Kids that should be in jail aren't because the school system is failing to report things that they should be reporting. That and much more on today's show. Before we get into introducing our guest today, which you are going to love, by the way, let me just remind you to share this video out with your friends, your family, your neighbors. Get the truth into their life. Also, if you would, get over to ourwatch.com, subscribe, and become one of our watchmen. So important that we make sure people get the truth. All right, that being said, we've got a wonderful guest today. You all know him. You all love him. It is Sheriff Chad Bianco. Sheriff Bianco, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, we're grateful to have you here in the studio today. Grateful to have you as our sheriff here in the Riverside County. A lot has happened over the last several years, and you really got thrown into it. I'm sure as you ran for sheriff, you didn't expect you'd be sheriff during everything we've gone through in the last few years.
No, I say all the time, doing law enforcement is easy. I wish that was my only job, was doing law enforcement.
Yeah,
it's not. There's the entire political aspect and public safety, politics, health. Everything has just been dumped in us in the last several years.
Right.
So it's gone by very fast. But yeah. It's not what I expected.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that when you were running, I remember when you were running, and I remember talking to a lot of deputies, and morale was down, and we've seen a change in that. There's been a shift, and you can see morale amongst the deputies is really good under your leadership.
It is. We have a very proud employee staff, a very proud department, and it wasn't like that several years ago. There were a lot of people that were jumping ship. There were a lot of people that were convincing their kids or their relatives or their friends to go to other departments instead of recruiting into our ranks. And all of that's changed now. Everyone, we love our jobs. We love serving the community, our county, and we're getting more and more kids back in. These legacy employees that they're following after their parents, recruiting family members from other agencies. There's people want to work here, and they like working here again.
Yeah. Just for the audience that may not know how large a department, the Riverside Sheriff's Department is, your staff size and all that you cover, can you just briefly let them know?
We are large. So the County of Riverside's 2.5 million people. And so with that, we have 4,200 employees. We are the second largest sheriff's department in the state. We're the fifth largest sheriff's department in the country, and we're right around the 20th largest law enforcement agency in the country. So extremely large. We have 5 jails, 17 contract cities, 5 courtrooms, courthouses, court buildings that we're responsible for. I'm the coroner, the public administrator. It's a very important, large agency position that I hold. I'm very grateful to have it, honored to have it, and I can't imagine doing anything else.
Yeah. Well, it's clear. I travel all over this nation, really speaking, and it's clear that you are loved by your department and loved by the community, because I hear about you in states across the nation, about what you're doing here and the stances that you've taken that were really common sense stances and much appreciated by the community.
Yeah, my goal for our department is to be a nationally recognized agency for anything. If anyone wants to know anything about public safety, I want them to look to Riverside County Sheriff's Department to see what we're doing right, and emulate us and copy us. And as I travel the country, I'm in all different states and for meetings and government meetings and sheriff meetings, and we're well on our way to doing that. We are certainly recognized for doing things right, and I'm sending people all across the country to train other agencies in what we're doing in our corrections bureaus and in our special investigations bureaus. The community, the county, should be very proud of their deputies. We're doing a very good job nationwide.
Yeah, we look at Riverside County. You've actually been quoted before as saying that Riverside County is the Texas of California, and there's a lot of truth to that. When you look at the type of people that live in Riverside County, we're generally a conservative community. Folks love each other. We look out for one another, and we enjoy living in an environment that's filled with peace.
Yeah, I say this all over. It's and when you look at politically, that's where the country is failing now, is this political divide along party lines. And we are not that way. We are, if you look at the voter rolls, we're predominantly Democrat registered voters, but we don't have that huge divide that other places have. We all know we have far more in common than we have not.
Right.
And I think it's emphasized here in Riverside County. I think, nobody cares if you're a Democrat or Republican. They want to know if you're a good person. They want to know, if you care about the people around you. And in my position, if I care about law enforcement, care about protecting people, and I like saying we're above that petty Democrat-Republican fight that it seems like the media and the rest of the country wants to have.
Yeah.
We are better here.
Yeah. Yeah. The things that you just said, those are the conservative values. And that's why people move to Riverside counties. They want the conservative value. They want a good place to raise their kids. My family moved me out here in the mid-'80s. And I've been raised here, and then I raised my kids here, and now I've got grandkids, and it really truly is a wonderful place to raise a family. I look at what's happening with the governor that we have right now, and his relationship to law enforcement. Up until recently, he's supposed to have met with the Association for the Sheriffs. There's 58 sheriffs in the state of California, and traditionally the governor would meet with the association. He failed to do that until you intervened. Can you talk about that?
Of course. There are 58 of us, the Cal State Sheriff's Association, and we meet bi-monthly. So as an organization, we meet bi-monthly and go over law enforcement in general, the bills that are plaguing us, the ones that we want to support, those types of things. And part of that meeting, it's usually a 2-day meeting, one time it's a 3-day, but usually it's 2. And part of that is the interaction with our partner agencies, whether they be federal or whether they be state. And part of that historically has been the governor or someone from high in the governor's staff would come to our organization, would come to our meetings and just brief us on things going on and answer questions. And he would engage in the whole public safety aspect and would reach out to us for our opinions and for our expertise in public safety. And when Governor Newsom took over, that completely ended. There was not even a communication. There was no talk. There was nothing. It was just, you're there, he's there, and he wanted no part of us, and refused to engage us in dialogue of items concerning public safety. And then I became very vocal about that, and it made a lot of news. And like everything about him is fraudulent, he reached out to our president, or his staff did, and they picked a small group of sheriffs to go meet with him for a very short period of time. So now he can check that box and say, oh, no, I met with them. And then technically, I can't say he's never met with us because he met with us once. And now since that meeting, absolutely zero contact, zero communication. It's just the fraudulent person that he is.
Yeah. Were you one of those 5?
I was not. I don't think I was high on that list.
Yeah, I'm sure. We look at the relationship between a governor and the sheriffs. It should be a good relationship, but we don't have that good relationship. Do you think that there's some sort of effort in the state of California to cut out the electoral process of electing our sheriffs and move that over to more of a legislative body that appoints sheriffs in the state of California?
100%. 100%. The beauty of the constitutionally elected sheriff is that the people get to pick who they want in charge of public safety for their respective county. And the problem for people like our governor and people like our attorney general and people like that are controlling our politics in this state right now, they want control of everything, and they don't want control of public safety per se. They want control of everyone underneath their political agenda. And if you do not go along with the political agenda, they want the ability to remove you. And with sheriffs, they do not have that ability. The only way for me to not be in office is for Riverside County to decide that they don't want to elect me in the next election. And there is a huge push by our governor, by our political leaders in California, our legislature, to remove the ability of the electorate to put us in positions, to put people like me in a position to control public safety in Riverside County, and put someone that they can control to do their political bidding. And there have been bills for the last 2 years that thankfully have failed, but it'll come back this year. It'll be there. And it is to remove the process of electing a sheriff. They want a political board to appoint someone that could do their political bidding. And if I don't, then they would remove me. And it's completely obvious what they're doing. It has nothing to do with public safety. It's all about politics.
Yeah, we look at what's happening across the state, and it really it's frustrating to say the least. And knowing that this is the direction they're trying to head, it's really alarming for a lot of Californians. I think that's why we've seen a lot of Californians leave California. And I'm always trying to tell people, you got to fight. You got to fight against this. We have to stand up to it. Let's shift gears, if we could, a little bit. Let's talk about schools, because there's a lot going on in schools, and you know me. That's been one of my big passions for over a decade now. Is what's happening in our public school system. We had a former employee of a Temecula school, Temecula Valley High School, who came on the program, and he was talking about the fact that there are kids that should be suspended, they should be expelled, and yet they're not. And the reason he gave was, the Temecula School District wants that high status. They want to say, hey, we've got no crime going on here. It's a great place. Bring your kids. So they basically shove these things under the rugs. Another accusation that was made is that the sheriff's department was showing up with their drug-sniffing dogs, and the school would know that there's a drug dealer on campus, but not let the deputies go in and bring the dog into where that drug dealer was. So I don't know that truly was happening or not, but it seems to me that there is an effort on the public school system in California to not report what some of these kids are doing, and many of these kids should likely be in jail.
So it's very alarming, but what you're saying is absolutely true. And we are seeing a pattern of the administrators of our school. It isn't the teachers. It's the Teachers Association, and it is the administrators of our schools that wrongly have this absurd notion that law enforcement is responsible for kids' behavior. And they believe that this made up, ridiculous concept of school to prison pipeline, that it's law enforcement's fault for introducing kids into the criminal justice system. They're doing everything they can to eliminate law enforcement from schools because they don't want kids getting in trouble. And the problem with that is there are some kids that need to get in trouble. This is not the cops' fault. This is not the victims at school's fault. It is a small minority of kids in school that common sense tells you they are there. There are drug dealers there. There are kids that are bullying, victimizing other people. Sometimes there are sexual assaults at school. And the school has this underground rule, this unspoken rule. It's spoken. It's just not written anywhere. It is an agenda that law enforcement will not be called. They don't want school resource officers in the school. That's why the push to get school resources out of the school is because they want to be able to call every single time, so they get to pick when a deputy gets to be involved in some sort of a situation. And the problem that we are having now is we are learning of crimes, and we are learning of assaults that teachers are mandatory reported to report. They're reporting it how they should. They're up their chain of command, and then it is stopping. And principals and administrators are stopping that investigation or that crime or that allegation of crime from going to law enforcement, so we can make sure it did or didn't happen. And it's extremely alarming. And you're 100% right. It's all about statistics. It's all about, they want to say that there's no crime going on in their school. Well, we have to be realistic about our world. We were young. We were in high school. There has always been crime in high school. There's always been assaults. There's always been drugs. There's always been those types of things happening. And we need to protect our kids. That should be our primary responsibility of schools, is protecting our kids. Education, yes, but they can't learn if they're in an environment that is unsafe. And when we are allowing sexual assaults on campus, when we are allowing fights and those types of things on campus, where unfortunately kids, if they're not going to listen and if they're not going to learn and if they're not going to do the right thing and victimize other people, they are putting themselves in the criminal justice system. It's not me. It's not that deputy. It's not that teacher. It's that person. It's that person's family. It's that person's parents or lack of parenting that they have lost all values and respect and care for other people. And unfortunately, for a civil society, we have to have an adherence to rules. And if you don't adhere to rules, then there's consequences to that. And it's scary for me in the position that we're at, in that I'm in, learning of this failure to report. Teachers and school administrators and everything else, just like nurses and doctors, they are mandatory reporters. And we are having to look at and potentially arrest administrators for failing to report these crimes that we're learning about months later, and there were more victims because of that failure to report. So parents need to be worried. They need to care about what's happening in their school, because this agenda, and it's not the teachers. I get so many people reaching out to me that are teachers saying, we can't believe this is happening, but I'm afraid for my job. They're going to fire me. They've already fired people. So it's not like it's out of the realm of possibility to be fired. You're going to be fired if you go outside their political control. And it's worrisome for many.
Yeah, I have lots of really good teachers that call me, and they're fearful of their job. They're afraid because the teachers union. They're afraid what the union will do, what the administrators are going to do, and they don't have a voice. At least they feel like they don't have a voice, which is why they come to me, because they know I'm going to blast it all over the place. But we definitely, the teachers that are the strong conservative teachers, which are a lot of them, they need to start really. I'll say this, that what they need to do is get out of the California Teachers Association and defund that is what they really need to do. They actually get a lot better coverage if they'll go with other organizations as far as protection. But, they really need to start using that voice, and they need to stand up for what is right. And parents, they need to be aware. They need to have their eyes open to what's happening and really start speaking out against this. Let's talk. I want to shift gears again because there's a lot I want to get through as you're here. A lot of people love in the county of Riverside. It was very difficult for a while to get a concealed weapons permit, but now in the county of Riverside, things have changed under your leadership. There's a lot of common sense rules that you have in place, and you're following the state's rules as well. But people can get their concealed weapons permit in the county of Riverside. What do you think the direction our state is heading? Are people still going to be able to get a CCW, or is that under attack right now?
Well, you'll still be able to get one. So in Riverside County, when I took over in 2019, there had been 3,200 permits issued. Last month or the month before, we topped 40,000. So in the last 5 years, we've done everything we could to allow people to exercise their constitutional right to self-protection by issuing them CCWs. A law-abiding person with no mental health issues that comes and asks and applies and can have one, they're going to get one. And we're going to do it as expediently as possible. If it takes a couple of months, we're a little bit upset that it took that long. We're getting them out as quick as we can. We're still doing the full investigation. We're still doing full background checks, and we're complying with the state law. So the new law, SB 2 from last year that they passed, which is, we have to acknowledge it is 100% completely unconstitutional. This was a law designed that was in response to the Bruin decision back east, that they said that it was against the Constitution, that these restrictions placed on gun ownership and gun possession. As a result of that, immediately they crafted a bill. It was already crafted because they knew they were going to that Supreme Court decision was going to be in favor of gun owners. So California already had the bill crafted the same day or the day after they had this monstrous bill that they put through the legislature and passed to restrict your ability to carry a concealed weapon. So you're not the ability to get one is not going to change. There's a little bit more requirements for it's 2 days of training instead of 1 day of training, small things, but we will still be able to issue them. The problem is the restrictions that they've placed on where you can carry it. And basically, in a nutshell, it's not like this, but for broad terms, they've outlawed any place you can carry it. If you go outside your home, they've said that you can't carry your gun there in this law, which is completely unconstitutional. And I want to emphasize it by this. If I told you that you could no longer go to a street corner and exercise your First Amendment right, there would be an uproar. The entire state would be in an uproar. But our legislature has said that you can no longer exercise your Second Amendment right on a street corner. You can't say that is not unconstitutional. They know it is. Right. And their disdain, our attorney general's disdain and our governor's disdain for the Constitution it doesn't get any higher than those two. Exactly. And so passing this bill, there's already lawsuits. We know that eventually the bill will be overturned. The bill will be stricken because it is so egregious. It's almost common sense. It isn't even legalese anymore. It's complete common sense. How can they do that? And the answer is because they can. Because they're complete control of the legislature, the laws, and then Newsom was going to sign it anyway. It's going to be an interesting year how we move forward with that, with all of those requirements and places that you can't carry. I think it's universal in the law enforcement world. The reality of what they have done in this state is they have made us all unsafe with AB 109, Prop 47, Prop 57, the closing of prisons, the non-judges just allowing inmates or suspects to just be put on probation, and they don't count what they were arrested for the second time as a new crime. They just put them on probation for violating probation. They've destroyed our ability to keep people safe. We're doing everything we can, but they're making it harder and harder and harder to do. So with that, we have to prioritize what law enforcement responds to. We have limited resources that to protect a county this big. I don't have 10,000 deputies that get to respond to everything. We have to prioritize what we respond to. Priority 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we have some others that may be a priority 9, like a 4th of July fireworks call with no information about who's doing it. We just hear them in the neighborhood. Well, we're not going to be able to find it either. So that's an extremely low priority of what we're going to respond to. And so while it is against the law, it is going to be an extremely low priority for us to respond, if we do respond, to calls of someone with a concealed weapon permit in some place that they shouldn't. The idea of a concealed weapons permit is no one should know you have it anyway. Right. So what I'm hoping is that these people that go to the extreme, that just demand it's their right, and they're going to go out there and tell everybody they have a concealed weapons permit and demand that they walk down this sidewalk, they're the ones that are going to cause the problems. It's disturbing the peace. It's not going to be, we're not going to respond because you have a concealed weapon. It's going to be because you're being an idiot.
Right.
You're a responsible person that we've issued a permit. Accept that responsibility and be a decent human being. And no one should know you have that gun anyway. And if you're the ability to protect your life in a life and death situation or somebody else's, you have that ability if you have that ability.
Right. You say it's going to be an interesting year moving forward, with trying to implement different policies on how to deal with that. It's going to be an interesting year also moving forward because we have an election year coming up. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of talk about election integrity. I want to ask you, as the sheriff of Riverside County, is the sheriff's department doing anything to ensure election integrity in our county? Are you guys working with the district attorney's office, Mike Hestron? Is there anything you guys have going on to make sure we can trust that we're going to have a free and fair election in 2024?
Yes. Well, so we have an active investigation going on. There were allegations about prior elections, about fraud and people committing election fraud and whether or not the elections were secure and those types of things. So we have done, or we're currently doing, an investigation into that. The problem with it is it's in the semantics of what we're finding. So for me, I mean, I can't tell you what we're finding or what we're doing, but for me personally, I think that our Riverside County elections are very safe and secure. I can't tell you that there is not fraud. If you believe there is not election fraud, there's probably something wrong with you, because this common sense thing again. Now let's stay out of politics. Let's go common sense. If some group is so forcefully pushing and demanding and forcing mail-in ballots only and refuses to do anything different, you have to know that there's something wrong with that. Your bells have to go off and say, why? And the common sense answer is because ballots mailed to everyone is the easiest way to manipulate anything. They can't manipulate a person. They can't, copy a person and have that person walk in and vote in person. So how do you manipulate the votes? You have everybody get mailed a ballot, and then you either steal those ballots or you form fraudulent voting records and you get multiple ballots. So in our investigation, and I have to be very, very clear, we did not find any person responsible for fraud or anything that we can say our elections were stolen or rigged or there were fraudulent things happen. What we did find is there are many things that have to be fixed. There are many votes that are unaccounted for. There are many votes that were counted twice. The assertion that a person couldn't vote twice is false. I mean, if you register, for instance, what we would find is, I'll take my name. I'll use my name. My complete name is Johnny Chad Bianco. So if I register under Johnny Chad Bianco, I get my ballot. Well, I can register somewhere else under Chad Bianco or J Chad Bianco or JC Bianco, and I'm still going to get that ballot. So we were told that those ballots would be caught and they would be, once you vote, you can't vote again. That's not true. So if you're able to obtain ballots with different spellings of the same name or different versions of the same name, you can do that. And we found that that's happened. So in that process, Riverside County is doing work to clean up their voter rolls. We found that regardless of whether or not she's a nice person, the last register of voters was incompetent in making sure that all of these things were taken care of. Whether she didn't care or whether she was doing it on purpose, I have no idea, and I really don't care. That's not something criminally we could prove. We just know that there were far too many issues that should have been fixed, that should have been put in place to ensure a better, more accurate voting roll and voting system. So Riverside County is going through all of those things now. They are making sure that for our next election, it is possible. So the caveat that I have to say to our investigation is we were simply looking at criminal allegations of voter misconduct and fraud. We did not do a comprehensive audit of the election, a forensic audit of the election. And that's the only way anyone, any city, any county, any state is ever going to know for sure if their elections are safe or if they're being manipulated, is if there is a complete forensic audit of those voting rolls and of those voting machines. The problem with our voting machines, we can't prove that the machines did anything wrong in our election, but we can't prove they didn't either. Because there is, and then you go back to this, well, why? That defies all common sense. Why would the county of Riverside or any of these other counties enter into a contract with a company for a voting machine and then not have control of that voting machine? How would someone else be responsible? Proprietary machines, information in those machines that we can't access or we can't fix. It's only they can do it. There's your bells have to go off there and say, if you're being that secretive, if you're being that non-transparent, there has to be the potential of you being able to manipulate the counting of the ballots. But there's no way for us to get in there because we're contractually bound to stay out of them. So that's what I say. The entire state of those machines needs a legitimate forensic audit where we get into those machines and can see what that computer software is doing and how it's counting. Because without that, we don't know. We do know that there were plenty of things in Riverside County put in place. We know how many ballots were submitted. We know that the ballots were counted. There may be a few off that we can't explain, a few thousand off that we can't explain. But we were looking for criminal activity, not a forensic audit. I feel safe that our next election in Riverside County is going to be okay. Certainly there is going to be the possibility of, hundreds or thousands of votes that are fraudulent from individual people or maybe groups of people, but an overarching control of the election process, I don't think that's happening.
We only have a couple minutes here left. I want to ask you, so you have said elections have consequences. You've repeated that elections have consequences. Somebody else said that initially. And it's true. Elections have consequences. You are the sheriff of our county. You are, when I hear people refer to you, we hear people say our beloved sheriff. That's how people refer to you. So Gavin Newsom changed some things here recently. You're now going to be in office as the sheriff longer than he probably anticipated.
Right. Well, they did it for a reason, and it was an unintended consequence. But they changed the rule, and this was a verbal. For all of my sheriffs, they refer to it as the Chad Bianco law, because the far left, the people that despise sheriffs because they don't control us, our governor, our lieutenant governor, those types of people are the people in charge of our legislatures. They despise the ability of the sheriff to do what's right instead of what they're told. And so they want to get rid of us. And they believed, and their verbally stated reason for changing our process was if they moved the election to the presidential cycle instead of the governor's cycle, they could get more people out to vote, more Democrats out to vote, because historically in the state of California, more Democrats come out to vote in the presidential cycle than they do the governor's cycle. So their reasoning was if we get more Democrats out to vote, those Democrats will vote Democrat. And even though I'm a nonpartisan race, I'm a public safety race, I represent everyone, they want the ability to have more Democrats coming out to vote to unelect sheriffs that they can't control and put people in a position like George Soros, who's destroying Los Angeles. That's what they want. So they passed it. It goes into effect, but then the court said, I'm a constitutionally elected person, so you can't shorten. They elected me for 4 years, so you cannot shorten my term to 2 years to comply with this 2024 election because I was elected again in 2022. So they were forced to add 2 years to my current term. So they made this term a 6. So I'm not up for election again until 2028. So that gave me an additional 2 years on my what is supposed to be a 4-year term. Yeah. That is not something they anticipated. They thought they were going to get rid of us quicker, and it backfired on them. And I'm going to make sure that that from this point forward, not that I haven't been vocal enough, but what I love telling people about me and my position, a law enforcement officer, if you're in a room of politicians, and I'll go ahead and admit that I unfortunately have to be considered a politician because I'm elected. If I am in a room with all of them, you can be rest assured that I am the only person in that room that absolutely must tell the truth. If I don't tell the truth, I can't hold the position that I hold. It negates all of the court aspects and we call it Brady issues of my entire department. If the leader of the department is a proven liar or dishonesty or can't testify in a court of law because I have truth issues, I can't hold this position. I mean, that's the number one way for a law enforcement officer to be fired is a simple lie, a simple mistruth. It doesn't even have to be the dreaded lie. It's just you don't tell the truth, and in any case, you're going to be fired. So that's how I live my life. And so when if the governor's sitting here or the attorney general is sitting here and I'm saying things that directly contradict them, it's because they're lying. They are absolutely lying. And that is why they despise sheriffs, because we have to tell the truth. We have to say exactly what's happening. And even though I've done it up until now and I've been very, very vocal, the unintended consequence of what they're going to get, they don't even know yet, because I'm going full bore. The problem of me going out and talking to people, what I hear over and over and over is, why didn't we know about that? Why did I not know that happened or that they're trying to do that? We have a failed media. The media doesn't want to report it because, I mean, the conspiracy theory is they're behind that agenda. But I have, and the sheriffs in this state have enough of a social media following and even the ability to get into the media on criminal justice affairs that I have a big voice. And the forcing me to tell the truth every single day about what they're doing, they have no idea what's coming to them.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that, by the way. The unintended consequence of adding 2 years to you. So you've got how much left?
I have till 2028. So it's 5 years. So
at the end of that, are you going to run for sheriff again, or do you have anticipation of doing something else?
I love my job, and I've always said, I keep myself healthy. My body's aging, but my mind is not. And I'm doing everything to keep my body from aging. I stay healthy, all of those things. So I absolutely love the job that I'm doing. And at this point where we're at, the residents still love what I'm doing, and my department loves what I'm doing. And as long as those two things stay the same, I have no intention of leaving. I love this department. I love what I'm able to do for our deputies and for our residents. And our residents and our deputies love me for doing that. So I'm in a good spot here. I have no intention of going anywhere else. It's until people don't want me here anymore, that's when I'll say, okay, well, maybe it is time for me to leave. But right now isn't the time.
Well, we appreciate all that you do. Any final comments? Anything you want to let my audience know?
No, I appreciate them listening. I appreciate them wanting to learn the truth, to spread the truth. The truth is something that is not wanted and hidden from everyone. The media is not telling the truth. Our government is not telling the truth. And over the last 4 years, if you can't see that, if you can't sit back and take your emotions out of it and learn, I mean, good grief, we're learning now that there's potentially UFOs that really exist. The entire thing about the Russian disinformation and the social media cover-ups and all of the flat out lies about the disaster that was COVID. If you can't emotionally sit back and see that we've been manipulated and lied to for years and it's our government that's doing it, you might be a part of the problem. And we have to get to a point where we just care about each other now, and we don't care about political agendas, and we don't care about activism and activists and special I just lost the word. Oh, geez. It basically activism and our government is run by special interests. Special interests and activists are a very small minority of the population, and the rest of us are being screwed by them. And we need to start speaking up. We need to do it forcefully. We need to do it vocally. We need to do it calmly. And it starts by reaching out to discussions like this and to information like this, and then spreading it to your friends.
Yeah. Well, Sheriff Bianco, we love you. We're so grateful that you're in the position you're in. We wish you all the best. God's protection, God's love, God's grace, just God's provision. Thank you so much for all you do.
You're welcome. I certainly need all of that.
Yeah. And I want to thank you all for joining us again. This is one of those moments where I want to emphasize getting the truth out to people. Share this video with your friends, your family, your neighbors. Get over to ourwatch.com, subscribe, make sure, because you know what happens is we put the truth out there. Many of the social media platforms out there, they don't want this truth out there. They're constantly threatening that we're going to be shut down. Best way is to go over to ourwatch.com. There you can become one of our subscribers and make sure that you always get the truth. Until next time, we'll see you, and God bless you.